Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors on a Monday, December 16th edition of the show. We are drawing closer towards Christmas. We are drawing closer towards the college football playoff, towards the NFL playoffs. We'll get into all of that perhaps and more, depending on what time allows. It is a Monday, and we do a Reaction Monday show during the season. Now we're kind of into the postseason. We're going to talk transfer portal. We're going to talk some big news on the ECU coaching staff we'll get to here in a minute with a pending defensive coordinator hire. And we are, as always, live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. So if you've got a question, comment, concern, drop it there. We'll get to it over the next hour. Let's introduce today's cast. As always, we've got Philip Pilkington producing. We've got Joseph Sampson, a.k.a. the Joey Football, former ECU football player, now in the real world, now supporting his Jets that finally won a football game. We'll start with Joey Football. How's it going, man?
It's going terrific, and thank you to Philip for wearing green to commemorate such an occasion. Can't remember the last time the New York Jets had a victory Monday after a win on a Sunday. It's been quite a while considering two of our wins are on a Thursday night, but just absolutely excited. Saw a lot of news about the pending hire we're going to give some kind of insight onto. Love that guy, high energy. I mean, all the players that I've spoken to over the past few days are really excited at the potential of this going through. So just a little teaser to kind of get into what we're going to get into, but great day so far.
Philip Pilkington, hard at work, producing multiple shows, including Hoist the Colors here on 94.3 The Game and the IBX Media family. Philip, how's it going on this Monday?
It's good. Speaking of the coordinator thing, I've not talked to active ECU players, but I've texted some former Lenore Ryan players about the potential hiring of Coach Aldridge, and everything that I have gotten has been positive, talking about both him on and off the field. They've used words like family man, great guy to work with, all those things. So excited to talk about this one. It should be a fun episode.
All right, so we've got a few comments already. Bobby Harvard says, sick shirt. I go. Broncos royal blue and orange is so much better than navy blue and orange. I agree. By the way, the Denver Broncos are now a 92% chance of being a playoff team. That means they can still blow it. So I'm not going to count my chickens for the hatch, but ugly win yesterday, but I am happy. Brennan's got a comment on NC State we'll get to in a little bit. Let's start with the big news, guys. Josh Aldridge, as Joe and Philip kind of alluded to, not official yet. ECU has not released anything, but we've got multiple reports. Matt Zenitz from 24/7 Sports actually broke the news that he was being targeted on Sunday evening for the ECU defensive coordinator position. He followed that up with a tweet about how this is the expectation that will get done and that Josh Aldridge will be the new ECU defensive coordinator. That was followed by Pete Thamel of ESPN, who said Josh Aldridge has agreed to a 2-year deal and is expected to sign in the coming days. So Josh Aldridge, the file, 35-year-old Jackson, Tennessee native, played at Hardin University, was a GA at Lindenwood, was a D-line coach somewhere called Alchita Baptist, then went to West Georgia as D-line coach, recruiting coordinator Lenore Ryan, as DC in 2018, along with linebackers coach, went with Hugh Freeze to Liberty as defensive line coach from 2019 through 21, then became the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach in 22, was the interim head coach for Liberty after Hugh Freeze got the Auburn job, coached the bowl game, then followed Hugh Freeze to Auburn, where he was the linebackers coach last year. Then he switched to defensive ends coach this year. He is expected to be the new ECU defensive coordinator. Blake Harrell announced a few weeks ago he would be hiring an outside DC, or hiring a DC. It looks like it'll be an outside hire, as we've kind of mentioned throughout the process, and that the DC will call plays. Now, Blake Harrell will still have input, and these two guys have never coached together, but they do have some ties from what I understand and know each other. So we'll get more into the reaction here. We'll start with Joe Sampson. Again, 35-year-old Josh Aldridge expected to become defensive coordinator. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I love the youth movement. I love it. It's basically similar to how you went and got JDB last offseason. You wanted a young guy who had a great resume but hadn't gotten his big shot yet. Well, he had half a shot under the Hugh Freeze staff at Liberty to be the DC, but not really a full shot to kind of command things. Hugh Freeze was a very hands-on kind of guy. It was very similar to a Mike Houston, and he wanted certain coverages ran a certain way against certain looks. Just a guy who wanted what he wanted. I think Blake Carroll is a little different in how he's kind of handled some things as a head coach. He's let the coordinators be who the coordinators are. He kind of did the same thing with himself as far as taking the defensive play calling. He was still aggressive. He was still Blake Carroll. He let JDB be JDB. They went aggressive, a little bit more pass first on some of those options, a little bit more on the fourth down. And that's exactly what this DC is going to do. Auburn has been phenomenal inside the box this year, especially stopping the run. I'm sure the PFF numbers indicate that the same way, but the eye test is definitely there. And I think especially considering the talent level that is on this ECU defense with retention and some guys who will wind up in the portal now with a couple spots that have opened up, I'm very excited to see what he can do.
Your take on the news, Philip. I know you were texting again. You mentioned earlier texting a source earlier who had been on the same team with Josh Aldridge, but do you feel like this is a good hire for East Carolina?
I do. And real quick, I know this is totally off topic, but ECU just posted the baseball schedules. The baseball schedule's out.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
There we go, breaking news.
Yeah. So, anyways, so to Coach Aldridge, yes, everything that Joe said is true. He didn't, maybe have the full freedom at Liberty, but the fact that we did the youth movement, went out there and got a 35-year-old that still does have some defensive play calling experience is really big. You mentioned compared him to John David Baker, and there are some similarities, but there are some differences. JDB had never called plays before. This is a guy who has been a defensive coordinator, who has called defensive plays before, and is still young, who can still relate with the players. This is a huge thing, and this is also a guy who has been in the state of North Carolina. Yes, it was only for a year, but we mentioned time at West Georgia. ECU has recruited Georgia a lot lately, and he's had time at Liberty, which everybody that we know pretty much, including you, Igo, made the trip to Liberty this past year. We know that Liberty is not that far away. He is local-ish. He has experience, and he's young. I mean, what three things could you want? I guess the only other thing you could have want is him actually having coached before with Blake Carroll, but I think they definitely have a lot of connections. They've coached with guys who have coached, with each other, so there's still a connection there, just maybe not directly.
Any concern, maybe concern should be the word, but any thoughts on, Blake Carroll, first-time head coach, he is 45, according to Google. John David Baker, mid-30s. Josh Aldridge, 35. Is it a good thing to potentially have a coaching staff? And there will likely be other hires. I want to say that as well. But pretty young coaching staff, Joe. As a player, is that a good thing?
Always. We kind of had both sides of the spectrum. Blake Carroll, when he came in, obviously was 40, not 45. When he came in as the DC for us early on. So that was a little bit of a youth movement. Trip Weaver was a young guy. Luke Larson was actually older than him by a couple months, I think it was. So there was definitely a feeling of the youth movement there. We had a little bit different when I first got there with the Bob Trotts and the Jeff Hansons. A little bit older, a little different mindset, old school football, traditionalists who weren't necessarily about the pageantry of college football, had coached in pro systems, had understood a lot of different things about the game and how to practice like a pro as opposed to kind of being a kid and like letting yourself kind of have emotions and play with that. Blake Carroll is a little bit different. Blake Carroll loves to have that kind of emotion, that energy. We've all seen JDB on Twitter. Might be the best Twitter follow in the AAC if I had to say so. And I think this DC kind of signifies the same thing. You want youth guys who are a player program. I think Blake Harrell is much more of a player's coach than Coach Houston was. Coach Houston was more authoritarian, had to do it his way, had to kind of be the way we needed to be to do the little things. Blake Harrell kind of believes in the players, believes in using all their different unique personalities and skill sets in certain ways. And that's why Jackson Barker and Winston Wright are all named All-Americans. Even if it's honorable mention or second team, they're still All-Americans under a head coach who only took over for 5 games now. So I think it's just a bright showing, and especially with the youth movement coming forward in this new age of the portal, it really kind of settles into people, hey, look, we understand this is a new business and we're going to try and treat it as such.
It'll be interesting to see how much Coach Harrell is still involved in the defense. Watching some Auburn this year and some Liberty, a lot of similarities as far as scheme, stand up outside linebacker, 4-2-5, multiple looks. So we'll see how the scheme looks. We'll see what other hires Josh Aldridge makes once this news becomes official. So there's some thoughts on the new ECU defensive coordinator, likely to be new ECU defensive coordinator Josh Aldridge coming over from Auburn. All right, the transfer portal, guys, is running rampant right now. Obviously, multiple ECU players in the portal. We're going to take a look, by the way, at some guys who left next segment. I posted the article on Hoist the Colors, so looking forward to looking at some of those names. The transfer portal right now, ECU has no commitments from incoming players. Now, visits have only been live for basically the last week. I should say they've got a JUCO commitment who has not announced yet, by the way, but no transfer portal commitments, from my understanding. I don't think it's time to panic. You look at last year, the cycle started a little earlier. December 1st was when visits were allowed. This year, December 9th. So you got to understand you're a week or two after last year's cycle. And two, talking to people, guys, a lot of these early commits, outside of some special circumstances, if they are good players, they're getting paid a lot of money. There is a pecking order here. ECU, from what I understand, they're not afraid to offer some NIL money to really good, proven players, but they're not going to overpay and panic this early in the process. So we'll start here with Philip. No commitments yet. I'm sensing some concern from ECU fans on social media, but at the same time, I'm trying to get people to calm down a little bit. Let's see how the rest of this month and early January plays out.
This is the definition of deja vu. Yes, it does kind of stink to have zero commitments, but think about it. Last year, we're having the same conversation with the quarterback position. The good thing is it looks like Caden Hauser is returning, potentially Jake Garcia. We haven't seen either one of those guys enter the portal. They've both been at practice. So, look, you're 100% right. There's a pecking order. And, look, the first few guys that get picked up will be overpaid. It's the same reason that you see it in the NFL nowadays, where there's a few contracts, Dak Prescott, that we're all scratching our heads about. There's going to be a few guys throughout this process that get overpaid, and it's going to be at every position. But guess who's going to overpay for those guys? Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, USC. We're not in that order. And then when those guys get done, it's going to be their rivals, right? It's going to be Auburn. It's going to be Florida. It's going to be Texas A&M and Ole Miss that make the next, get the next group of guys. And then it's going to be the Dukes of the world. And then it's going to be ECU. It's just where you are. Look, it's a little weird because, like I said, this thing's a little shortened because the season was backed up a week because of where Thanksgiving fell. But at the end of the day, look, there are conversations being had that we do not know about. They are behind closed doors. There are athletes right now who want to go to bigger programs, and when they don't get the offer, or when someone gets recruited over them when they realize they're going to ride the bench, they're going to fall right into the hands of ECU. Just because we don't have any pen to paper right now, there are still relationships being built. There are players who are thinking about coming here. There's no reason to panic.
Yeah, I want to say there was like 1,600 plus players in the portal as of early this weekend. So, there are frontline guys, Joe, but there's more spots, or there's a lot more players than there are spots. So ECU is going to get some players. Let's just all calm down a little bit. They've got multiple talented players visiting the next few days, including today, All-American FCS safety, which you can read about at hoistthecolors.net, by the way, 50% off. Joseph Sampson, are you concerned yet?
No. This is just like the beginning of Moneyball when they try and figure out how they're going to replace Giambi, and they say we have to do it in the aggregate. You're going to do the same thing. You're not going to go out and spend $4 million on a safety, $6 million on a corner, and $10 million on a left tackle. It's not going to happen. Even the big programs aren't doing that right now. They just have outside factors that make it look like such. This is the new way you have to do it. You got to build a savvy kind of team. You got to build a cap almost. You have to create a salary cap, figure out who is actually getting a percentage, what you're doing, and until there's revenue sharing and a salary floor and all those things that create a guardrail, you're going to fly blind. And I don't mean blind as far as not having players. You're just not going to know what the numbers look like or the things like that. That's why the Belichick hire is so huge for UNC. Now they have somebody who understands how to create a salary cap like this and live inside the salary cap. You never saw the Patriots throwing out $40 million for anybody, not even Tom Brady when he was Tom Brady. So ECU is in a very similar situation. You're not going to see them throw a ton of money at people. They might kind of bump up some bonuses for retention. They might kind of bump up some bonuses for players who have exceeded expectations. But they're not going to go throw $4 million at a safety in the portal when you can go get an FCS guy, when you can go to the JUCO route. This is kind of where the old school recruiting mentality is still going to be alive for these group of 5 schools, as we're going to put in air quotes, because you're not in the ACC. You're not a Power 4 who's guaranteed a spot in the playoff. This is how you have to do it. You have to have a great roster, go on a run, and win your championship. And that's exactly what ECU is going to try and do by building it brick by brick. But there's also a ton of players who haven't gone into the portal yet and will after the bowl games because they need that last game of tape.
A lot of layers here. East Carolina doing a good job, I think, of being patient. Now, there's a fine line. I think if you go through the rest of this week into the weekend, don't have any commitments then I'm a little concerned. But a lot of time. And then you also have visits the first 2 weeks of January. The semester, I believe, begins January 13th, I want to say. I'll double-check that. But we'll see. I mean, look, there's massive needs to fill. O-line, D-line, those are tough positions to fill in short notice. So Pirates are going to have to pay some money probably at some point to get that done. I'll tell you what, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We will take a look at players who left the program last year. We'll coincide that with an article I posted this weekend, kind of give some thoughts on that list, which one of those guys look good in their new homes and who maybe regrets their decision. We'll touch on that and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Monday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Play here. Arr! This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo.
Yes! That was so good!
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Monday. We've got Philip Hilkinen producing. We've got Joe Sampson hanging out on this Monday. We got some comments on the bowl game. We'll get to those. Leighton said, did we see Micah Hudson's NIL demands from Texas A&M? So I saw this morning. I do want to share this with you guys. I mean, these are, I think, the alleged NIL demands. I don't know if this has been confirmed anywhere, but for those who are unaware, Micah Hudson is a freshman receiver, former 5-star recruit. He had 8 catches for 123 yards for Texas Tech. He's transferring to Texas A&M, just committed, just signed. Allegedly on Twitter, somebody posted this is what he asked for through NIL. $700,000 minimum wire up front for 1 year deal to sign immediately. Separate NIL deal for 3 cars for family members to sign immediately. Personal driver with Cadillac SUV for Micah from spring practice through the end of the season. Family hotel and travel arrangements paid each game with up to 10 members to have travel, tickets, and costs paid for. Medical injury time off and plan after injury determined only by Micah and his family. So those are the alleged NIL demands for a receiver that had 8 receptions for 125 yards. Thoughts?
I didn't realize Juan Soto was back in college.
I mean, if this is true, like, what are we even doing?
It's like the Florida had a DN that said they had to play on third down, guaranteed starting spot, and $45,000 a month. And Billy Napier was like, "Yeah, kick rocks. How about no? We went 7-5."
The driving to and from. Who does he think he is? The president of the United States?
Yes.
I don't think Kim Kardashian gets driven around that much. I mean, dang, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I can understand if you were like the Heisman Trophy winner, maybe. But this guy,
don't even mention the Heisman Trophy. I will rant from now until
break
12:56:50.
It's for you to rant.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that because it's just so asinine that it's like hard to even fathom. Again, this was somebody posted on Twitter, starting to go viral. So if it is true, it just speaks to how broken the system is, which everybody knows is broken.
Well, the system's broken, but also, like, it's still as messed up as the system is, it doesn't paint the picture for you to be an entitled jerk. Like, come on, dude. Like, come on, you're 18 years old. Grow up.
What have you done? No SEC title, no playoff appearance. You have 8 catches. Cool. Not to go with the Jets. Devontae Adams had that in a half yesterday. What have you done this season besides complain? That's the problem, Igo. That's where I get so fired up. Is because if you won a 6-6 team and you didn't play and you think you're going to blow up somewhere better, you're not. Second, if you haven't produced and you think you're worth extra money, you know what happens in the NFL? They say, cool, thank you so much. We're going to go sign that rookie from an undrafted free agent deal, and he'll do exactly what you did. And that's the problem. I go, everybody keeps getting these inflated posts from agents saying, but you're worth this, you're worth that, you're worth this, you're worth that. Who's paying it? Who's paying it? Because if you're thinking that at Holy Cross, the Lord knows you're not getting that kind of money out of Texas A&M, out of Florida, out of Georgia. I'm getting angry over it. There's comments that Quinn Ewers is going to get a 6-figure deal to go to the Big Ten. You know where else he can get a 6-figure deal? The NFL. Sorry, I'll reel it in.
No, look, dude, this comes down to parenting. These parents are not setting any sort of role models for their kids at all. And then, like you said, they get some agent to go out there and pump so much into their head. They get such big-headed, they think they're, friggin' prime Randy Moss.
Well, look, if A&M is crazy enough to meet these demands, then that also adds to the issue. Like,
Elko ain't doing that.
I mean, I would hope not, but they just accepted the commitment. All right, by the way, Chandler Morris, North Texas quarterback, going to UVA, according to Bobby Harward, so you have that news. I doubt he's asking for demands to be driven around in a Cadillac, but there's something.
He probably just wants basketball tickets and doesn't want to have to wait in line. It's probably his only demands.
Ryan says Florida guy just got picked up by LSU. I guess that was a Florida guy that y'all were talking about.
Yeah, the 5-star that was ranting. Yeah, those.
Okay.
Makes sense. Brian Kelly's a bum.
There you go. All right, let's get into ECU players that left via the portal last year. I posted on Hoist the Colors. More than 30 players left. You can read the full article. Some names. We'll kind of just share some thoughts on some of these guys who departed. So Tegan Wilk He was, I think, the first guy. I basically did it in order of, if you go from top to bottom, in order of guys' entry into the portal. So Wilk was the first to enter because he missed the last part of the year with an injury. Then he went to Houston, played 44 snaps across 3 games, missed the rest of the year due to injury. There's actually talk of him coming back, but that was a guy who was a key guy for ECU, left to go to Houston, did not play a lot. You've got a number of walk-ons or like special teams guys who ended up transferring down. Some of them played, some of them did not. You can kind of read the list. Mason Garcia went to Austin Peay, won the starting job, got hurt after 20 snaps at Louisville, missed the rest of the year. By the way, congrats to Mason Garcia, college graduate. He got that done this semester. Jason Schufer goes to Marshall, wins a Sun Belt title as a defensive tackle rotation player. Richard Pierce to New Mexico. Breakout year as a starting offensive lineman. Now is back in the portal. That feels like a massive miss for ECU that Richard Pierce went from starting at ECU last year to not starting, then hitting the portal. He could have used that depth this year. Tyquan King, linebacker, went from A&T to ECU, did not play. He was behind Taylor Jackson and Zakai Barker. He goes to Temple, has an all-conference year. He's now back in the portal. Lath Margin didn't kick at all on field goals, was kickoff specialist. He goes to South Alabama. He's now going to Kansas, back in the portal after an all-conference year. Taylor Jackson went from starter at ECU to backup at Liberty. Ra Dilworth, not sure what he was thinking. He goes from starter at ECU to playing like 50 snaps at Baylor. Antoine Jackson, who tweeted me yesterday. I don't think he was a huge fan of the article. He went from starter at ECU as a 4-star freshman to a backup at UCF, giving up some yardage. So Shane Calhoun went to A&M, mixed results there. Omega Blake. So just some names there. We'll go around the horn. Any thoughts on this list? We'll start with Joe because you were teammates with some of these guys.
I love all of them. Some of them, it's bad information. It's people telling you that you're going to play a lot more than you did. And that's the first thing you learn when you go through this recruiting process in high school. Everybody's going to lie. Everybody's going to tell you that you're going to be starting and mom and dad are going to sit up in the stands and watch you for 4 years and then you're going to go to the league. That's not the case. It's not how it goes. The Antoine Jackson thing, yeah, you were the 4-star. You were the big fish in a small pond at ECU. That's why a lot of these 4-star guys think they come in and they're going to do these things. ECU doesn't get the 5 stars. We don't normally get a high-tier 4-star like that. Certain circumstances kind of dictated this one. When you go to another school that has multiple 4 stars, a couple of 5 stars, that's how it goes. That's what happens. That's when talent meets opportunity and execution. And that's why these really good teams stay really good. And the really bad teams don't wind up catching up. The Richard Pierce thing, I don't understand what happened there either. There's just a lot of things that played out behind the scenes. I think there was some disagreements about where they thought he was after the Michigan game last year, and he's excelled. He's been in a really good situation. New Mexico's coach just takes the job now at Utah State, so he could follow him there, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. The Nishad Strother thing. Nishad knew what he was. People kept telling him, it's not right to go in the portal. You're not going to get what you think you are. He knew his worth. He went out and he did it. There are a lot of situations for a lot of different guys. Some guys are kind of forced into this. Some guys are told you're not going to play as much as you were. And that's kind of where a couple things happened with the Tegan Wilk thing. You kind of told him you're not going to be the safety that you were as far as snap count, and he transferred. And you wish him the best as far as that goes. But a lot of these guys who think they're a lot bigger than they are, that's when you play 56 snaps on special teams. It's when you go and you have to try and fight for a position that you were playing already. It's just the new way of the world. Everybody is in the portal, so nobody is in the portal.
Everybody is in the portal, so nobody's in the portal. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Philip, what's your take on this list? Does anything stand out above at least what I said, or as you looked at this list of just chaos every year in college football now?
It's chaos every year in college football, of course. But, there are exceptions to what I'm about to say. Nishad Strother, of course, and a couple others. But it comes down to kind of what Joe was saying when you're a 4-star here and you go join a team with a bunch of other 4-stars. Look, it comes down to what's important to you. Do you want to see the field, or do you just want to be at the place that's in the biggest conference? Well, with revenue sharing coming in, maybe you even see more guys just want to play in the biggest conference because if they know they're not going to the league, maybe they're just going to want more money via the revenue sharing. But also, you got to want to play too. Some guys do, and when you look at most of the guys who saw the most snaps, it was the guys who transferred down And a lot of the guys who transferred down still were not starters, but at least when you say they're a rotational piece, they still had decent numbers. I mean, there's, 3 guys on this list that went to Valdosta State, which is, just beat Minnesota State. Sorry, Adam Thielen, in the semifinals on Friday night or Saturday. And then I know somebody went to Johnson C. Smith. That was one of the running backs. He became a decent rotational piece there. I read the article. I just don't have it in front of me, clearly.
Yeah, that was Camaro Edmonds is at Johnson C. Smith.
And he had, 58 carries?
Yep, he had around, 86 carries for 455 yards.
Yeah, so, look, at the end of the day, if you're not playing at East Carolina, go down. Swallow your pride. And when you see the numbers of some of these guys,
Jamari Young.
Snap counts. Yeah. Why not? So, look, we can sit here and complain about it and say this, that, and the other all day, but it is what it is. These kids are going to do what they're going to do. The problem is it's not the athletes, like Joe said. It's the people who's putting all this crap in their heads. And some guys, you got to bet on yourself, and sometimes it works, and a lot of times it doesn't. So I just hope the current players, and I don't just mean this at East Carolina, but everywhere else, learn from the mistakes of those who came before you.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, and I know, Joe, you can speak to this as a player, a lot of players think, all right, even because this guy, transferred and it didn't work out for him, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. Like, I'm going to be a star here. I'm going to go to the NFL. A lot of players have that mindset, which is good. I mean, you have to believe in yourself, but it's, you just got to be careful because there's a lot of agents out there. Agents are really driving this deal. They're coming up with numbers before they even reach out to the players on how much they can get these guys if they enter the portal. And that, they're kind of driving it. So you're going to get a lot of guys who maybe get paid but don't play. And is it really worth it long term? I don't know. What did you think of Lath Margin basically tweeting, calling out a coach at ECU that told him he would never get a shot? I did think it was ironic that he then entered the portal the next day and then went on to his next stop. But I don't know. What did you think of that, Joe?
I love Lath. Love his family. We've known him for a while now. Went to Enloe, so he's a Raleigh kid. It was a bold move, especially considering the timing of it, to say something like that, like happy where you are. I think it was be where your feet are or something like that. And then immediately entered the portal after you guys had a chance to win a conference championship. Like there's just an interesting kind of timing, so to speak. But, I think him getting a chance to kick in the Big 12 is going to be really interesting. A lot of high profile games. He could get some big eyes on him as far as NFL scouts go. He's got a rocket for a right leg. He just didn't have the accuracy and the mental acuity it just took to hit field goals consistently. And there were some chances in some practices where he had a couple shots and would hook one or push one or things like that. And that's, look, as I've said before, when you don't show up in practice, you usually only get 1 or 2 shots. If you don't execute, you become an afterthought, you become a number on a roster, and they move forward. Because there are guys that they've made investments in, especially if you're a walk-on, who are now going to be going away. So that'll really be interesting to see how the practice dummies play out for these programs. How have you served me lately? And that's, he became the kickoff guy and then earned his spot on the kickoff and then had to go and bet on himself somewhere else. But I just thought the timing was really interesting to say, you guys didn't believe in me, and then leave the coaches that did to go to another school was interesting.
It was, but hey, he'll probably make it in the NFL because the last person who was told they couldn't make it at ECU was Sandra Bullock, and we saw it turned into her. So, maybe Lath Margin's going to be a Pro Bowl kicker one day.
Or Miss Congeniality, one of the two.
I do know former ECU punter Worth Gregory trained him, said that he was the most talented kicker at that point he had ever trained. So, look, I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Taekwon King, who was third string, goes to Temple and balls out. Now we'll see where he ends up. But, it's not, every transfer situation is created different. None of them are equal. So everybody has their own story. I just get asked all the time. I had some people messaging me saying, why are you taking shots at these players? I'm not taking shots. Literally just, I get asked all the time, what happened to so-and-so who transferred? So I'm like, I'm just going to do this, get it out of the way, and now it's done. Now we can worry about who's coming in.
I'm going to defend
the
Igo
numbers
here.
Never lie.
This is not the
Stats
first
don't lie.
time Igo's been called out for something like this. When he posts stuff that is just meant to inform people, he is trying to inform people. That's all I'm going to say.
It is what it is, man. It's part of the
Maybe you
territory.
need a disclaimer.
Yeah, I guess so. I need to work on that. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We will talk about I had an agenda here. I don't know what happened to it. We'll talk about the baseball schedule because that just came out. We'll briefly touch on that. We'll also discuss the NFL playoffs, college football, bowl games, all that. We got some ECU, NC State questions we'll get to. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Christmas with the Embers, a concert for Pitt County Operation Santa Claus.
Merry Christmas, baby. Sure they treat me nice. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell.
Tickets are $20. Kids 10 and under get in free. Make sure ENC families in need have a Merry Christmas.
Christmas with the Embers.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
matey!
Back to the show with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the colors here. A couple news and notes. The ECU baseball schedule just dropped. We'll get to that here in a minute. Although we may save the real in-depth discussion for tomorrow when we have a little more time. Bobby Harvard says FAU has a new stadium name. Flagler Credit Union Stadium deal is worth $22 million over 15 years at the moment. The number one naming rights still in the American and number two in the G5. More deals like this will trickle in over the next 6 to 12 months. Hope our administration is considering something like this to generate more money. So some notes there. All right, we got Joe Sampson. We've got Philip Pilkington. We've got questions about NC State and ECU. We've got Brendan Shapiro said, I've heard NC State has retained a lot of their roster. Meanwhile, we have no secondary. This bowl game is making me nervous. Are you nervous, Joe, as we are 12 days out now from the Military Bowl?
No, none the slightest. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody else treats the bowl game like a vacation. East Carolina treats it like it's team camp. Okay, when Mike Houston was there, we went home for 4 days before we played Boston College. We were there from the end of finals all the way through graduation. After graduation, went home for like 2 days before Christmas, went back up, went up to Annapolis ready to fight those Golden Eagles, and we didn't get the chance. So we learned again, went down, and beat the mess out of the Beach Chickens in Birmingham. And I promise you, Blake Harrell wants that ring for recruiting purposes to show everybody East Carolina is back, especially against the Puppies.
I think that the offense is going to have to bring its game. Yeah, because I don't know if our defense is going to be stopping NC State a whole lot, Philip.
I don't know if they will, but I will say NC State's offense sucks.
It is pretty bad.
It's bad, and they don't have KC Concepcion. Like,
Terrible.
oh my goodness, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when they have the ball, because I'm with you. It's like, who's actually going to be on the roster for ECU?
But we've seen this defense without
Yeah.
Zakai Barker, and
I
that's
know.
scary.
That worries me. The good thing is, a lot of those interior defensive linemen, a lot of seniors.
That is true.
Last college game, Big Tay's going to get his.
Oh, yeah.
You know, JD's already announced he's staying. Like, Dank is here. Yeah, there's going to be some.
The Sam Danke guy is pretty good at football.
Yeah. So it's going to be. They're going to have to throw the ball if they want to beat us. I really believe that. But
and I don't know who they're throwing it to.
I don't either. But they'll find somebody. There
Rogers
will be
hasn't been
somebody have a
anybody
good
this year.
game that we've never heard of.
That's true. It's bowl season.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Calling Jackson Barker interception.
Yeah, I think.
I love it. 919.
I think if we break 30, we win.
Yeah. It's usually how it goes.
I think they find a way to score 24 to 28.
Don Vickers says, what are the odds Winston Wright plays in the bowl game? Don, my latest intel suggests it is not a done deal either way, but it is a consideration that Winston Wright does not play in the bowl game. I guess for NFL draft purposes, I don't think he's got a draft grade. So if he sits out, that would be, he's most likely going to be a late round pick or undrafted free agent. If he sits out, he I guess would be trying to stay healthy. I don't know. I would disagree with the decision, but Winston's got to make his own decision. You would have Chase Sewell and Winston Wright out. That would be a concern. But we do have Jari Patterson. We know what he can do, and we know what Yannick Smith can do, and Anthony Smith. So you still got some weapons. We'll see what happens there, but there's the latest on that.
He's not getting – there's no way in hell he gets a combine invite, right?
I'd be shocked if he got a combine invite.
A lot of people would have to kind of decide not to or something like that because, yes, he's an All-American on the list, but there's just every year, there's so much talent that hits that combine. It is so hard to get invited.
So why the heck – whatever.
I think he could help himself with a good bowl game.
I think he
You're going
could.
to have a lot of eyes on that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody
Prime
tuned
time.
in to Thursday night football,
bowl season,
FAU, East Carolina, while the Bengals and Ravens were in a shootout. The only people that tuned in were East Carolina and FAU fans. Like nobody
FAU
watched
fans?
Exactly. Point proven. But NC State, East Carolina bowl game, people are going to watch. Yes, there's 3 other bowl games on at that time, but you said what?
I said it's a hate watch. Those who hate ECU will watch. Those who hate NC State will watch. There
Scouts
will be eyes.
will have, there will be
Oh,
eyes. Also, there's less games going on. It's bowl season.
Yeah.
All right, we will we'll talk more about the bowl game, obviously leading up to the game and this week because we're off from our show until next week, I should say. Starting next Monday, we're off. We'll have a show Friday, but we'll have programming through all this week. So we'll dive more into the military ball. I do want to hit the ECU baseball schedule. We'll dive more into this tomorrow, but before we get a break in, we'll come back. We'll talk NFL after we just do this. The baseball schedule finally out. December 16th. Got to be the latest ECU baseball release day for a schedule that I can remember. So Pirates will open with George Mason, 3-game series. They play North Carolina the second weekend of the year. In the traveling series, the Friday game will be in Chapel Hill. The change and likely the holdup for this is the Keith LeClaire Classic. Army has dropped out of the LeClaire Classic they're originally scheduled to be in. So right now it is just scheduled to be 3 teams, Indiana State, Virginia Tech, ECU. So ECU will not play that Friday. Maybe not the worst thing in the world considering the weather in past years. The big news, Coastal Carolina will be here for a 3-game series March 7th through the 9th. William & Mary here for a non-conference series. And then you've got the midweeks built in, of course. Also, John Moody pointed out it looks like a schedule that's not a home-heavy schedule. The reason for that is you've got non-conference series. 5 of those are on the road this year because last year ECU had 5 conference home series. So you have that switch. So you only have 4 conference home series this year as opposed to 5 on the road. Your thoughts on the schedule, Philip, at first glance?
Yeah, a little weird to see that they didn't get Army replaced. From what we've been told, that was the hold up. They kept trying to do that. That's why they weren't releasing it. I like that the Carolina mid game will be in Durham instead of in Fayetteville. A little bit easier to get to for us here in Greenville. A little bit easier for our fans that live in the Raleigh area to get to. So I like that. Coach Godwin came on the show, so I'm not breaking any news, and said that he wasn't sure when the home series was and when the away was against Coastal, but that it is a home and home. So next year we will be going to Coastal. So interesting to see them on the schedule. This is something I think both fan bases have wanted for a while. I know we asked their why am I blanking on his name, but their old coach who just recently retired about it when they came here for a regional a few years ago, and he said he was all for doing it. Unfortunately, couldn't get it worked out in his tenure, but yeah.
Gary Gilmore.
Yeah, Gary Gilmore, thank you. But yeah, I mean, you got Campbell on here twice, UNCW, I think 3 times, right? Is there a neutral?
Yeah, three times with UNCW.
Yeah, I think Duke's only once. Weird that we're playing Gardner Webb at a neutral site in Durham, but hey, I guess we're meeting somewhat in the middle. Not really, but yeah, so it's kind of what you expected, though.
The UNCW game, the third game, by the way, will be Segra Stadium in Fayetteville on March 18th. Your thoughts, if any, Joseph, on the schedule?
I think the first thing is you need more regional matchups. This is not a billion-dollar enterprise like college football where you can have Cal Berkeley come play UNC on a Thursday night and East Carolina needs to play better games around the area. I think a Coastal series makes a ton of sense, especially if you're already playing a UNCW, which is a team that is a very highly regarded program, the same as Coastal Carolina, who are college series world champions in the last 20 years. It's a very good program. Obviously, Gilmore retiring was a huge impact to the optics of it, but it's still a very good program. I would love to see a little bit more kind of turnover, whether it was a Wake Forest, whether it was a Virginia, whether it was a VT in some of those situations, because it is within 4 hours. But from what you have, I wish we could have replaced the Army game like we had stated, but I think that's a huge, huge get for ECU to kind of add another home and home like that going into this year and next year, because that could be a huge thing for them when it comes down to selection.
All right, we'll dive more into this tomorrow with Philip on the show. Would love to be able to get somebody like Scott Rogers, play-by-play voice for ECU baseball on as well, but he left us. So, by the way, who is the new play-by-play guy? Philip, is it you?
No, it's not. Well, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. It sounds like it might not be one specific person the whole
I thought you were about to say not be one. They're just not going to call the games, but they will call the games.
There will be.
Okay.
Little Birdie told me we could have Scooter doing one of the away series. Just saying.
Okay.
Scooter might not be totally
People
out.
are talking. People are talking.
Joseph Sampson on the call.
Oh, my
Coming
gosh, please.
All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll transition. We'll talk bowl games and NFL to wrap up the show. This is Hoist the Colors.
This holiday season, get the gift you really want at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Drive a new Corolla, just $229 a month, or a new Tacoma, only $329 a month during the holiday trade-up at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your... Show off.
Mountain Dew.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves Tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors, with locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
Unwrap a new Toyota for the holidays at Greenville Toyota. It's our holiday trade-up. Get a new Camry, $269 a month, or a new RAV4, $329 a month. Trade up and save at Greenville Toyota.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here. We got about 5 minutes left. We've talked a lot of ECU. We'll talk now some NFL. We'll see if we can get any bold discussion in. Shout out to Navy, by the way, for beating Army. That was kind of a shocker, and it's the only game I've picked right against the spread because I went 0-6 in NFL yesterday. Solid work.
Jeez, Igo.
I'm just trying to make sure Philip and Bobby separate and make sure they have their cushion.
How's Bobby doing? I saw he was on a run for a little bit.
So I had a 4-game lead on him going into the weekend.
As you always do.
It's down to 1. I picked Army, and I picked South Alabama -8. They won by 7.
Yeah.
He picked Western Michigan, and then he was smart and picked the Cowboys. And I had faith in the Panthers. Picked them outright for the second time all year.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Never pick personal.
I didn't. Like I said, I've only picked him to win straight up twice all year. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Usually he has a good read on them. Usually I've got a good read on the Broncos, although I picked the Colts to cover. They should have covered. Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball at the inch-yard line.
Y'all lose that game if he scores.
100%. They had zero life. The Colts, I mean, they really messed that game up. The Broncos had no business winning, let alone covering. What stood out the most for you guys about the NFL action and how it maybe changed the playoff picture? We'll go around the horn this past weekend. Joseph, outside of your Jets winning, of course.
The NFC West is still anybody's. I mean, the Cardinals are still in striking distance. The Rams all of a sudden have a true case to win the division. I think they lead now, actually, technically, with the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. Where the hell did that come from? We're over here writing off the Rams after week 2 because half their O-line goes out, and oh my God, we forgot about Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp didn't even show up in San Francisco, and they still made it look like they had a chance. The 49ers suck. I'm not going to say they don't. Sorry, Jack Powers. They suck. You beat the brakes off us in week 1. You still suck. It's okay. Join the wagon. The West is an insane matchup right now. The Cardinals look like they're playing inspired football. I'm really excited to see how that kind of plays out with that last seed of the NFC and the NFC West to see if one of those teams can kind of sneak into that last seed. But, wow, what great football we have ahead of us.
All right, speaking on the NFC West, as you mentioned, all these teams are still alive. Here are the remaining schedules for each. The Rams are at the Jets. Big game for the Rams. Then they host the Cardinals, and then they host the Seahawks. So I would say they have a favorable stretch. The Cardinals go to the Panthers, and then they go to the Rams, which will be a crucial game. And then they host the Niners. The Seahawks host the Vikings, go to the Bears, and then go to L.A., so they have a tough stretch. Philip, who do you see emerging out of that?
I like the Rams emerging out of that because it sounds like there's we don't know about Geno for next week. They'll probably lose to Dom's Vikings. So Yeah, I think the Seahawks or the Rams emerge. To answer Joe's point, though, do one of them slot into the 7th seed? Look, that's still a possibility. But when you look at the remaining schedule of Washington, theirs isn't tough either. They do have to go to Philadelphia this week, but their last 2 games, I think, are the Giants, I believe. And they don't play the 3 division games. It's somebody else and then the Cowboys.
Did they play the Giants twice already?
They must have. I don't think they finished 3 division games. Maybe they do finish 3. Either way, it's somebody bad, and then it's the Cowboys. So, not saying the Redskins will 100%, the Commanders, whatever the hell we're supposed to call them, will make it, but they have a game of cushion in there, and Philly be in that game, and the fact that the Rams have to play both those teams, so the Rams or the Seahawks will at least lose one more. It's looking like Washington should be good as long as they take care of business after the Philly game. But what stood out to me is the fact that it's not just the fact that the Lions lost that is putting other teams in this NFC North race, but it's the fact that everybody else is holding serve. Obviously, the Vikings have not played yet this week. They've got the Bears at home tonight. But, look, Green Bay is a good football team, and there's some weird slip-ups in there. They're 10-4. Man, they could win this division. They won't, but they very much could. And, obviously, Week 18, Vikings, Lions. It's going to be a heck of a contest.
Commanders, by the way, finish Eagles at home, Falcons at home, at Cowboys.
Falcons at home. I knew it was somebody bad.
Falcons are bad.
Like tonight's doubleheader Monday night. Yuck.
Yeah, oh, my goodness. Who's scheduled
Raiders,
this crap?
Falcons. What did America do wrong to deserve this one, Roger?
Look, I get CBS didn't want to give up their game yesterday, and I get Fox didn't want to give up their game. But you could have moved. Well, no,
they should have played on Temu.
Well, what I'm saying, they could have either moved the Denver game or the Charger game, but the problem is the Denver Charger game from next week's up to Thursday, so that'll only be 2 days off. So,
yeah.
Oh, this is so stupid.
Yeah, Denver at L.A. Both teams look like they're going to be in, but that's a big game on Thursday for seeding. Knock on wood. Hopefully Denver closes the deal. All right, gentlemen, we are out of time. Joe, appreciate you, as always, and congrats once again on your Jets winning.
Thanks, guys. Devontae Adams is a Hall of Famer and my favorite player of all time, so I'm very happy.
And he does a great job
you can't even
of
tank
ruining
right.
your
Shut
top
up.
picks. All right, Philip, appreciate you as always.
Thanks.
We will be back tomorrow, 12 noon. And we will talk more about the schedule then for baseball. We'll also try to get Macy O'Donnell on. We'll have the latest from the transfer portal and more. We'll see you on Tuesday, 12 noon.
This has been Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things